I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values, our feelings, or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another live stream. It has been a while since I've done one of these. Let me make sure my audio is coming through, because I'm not used to this whole live streaming thing anymore, right? I'm good. All right. So welcome everyone. Got a decent sized group here. Didn't know how many I'd get for just an unplanned stream off the cuff like this, but I'll try to do my best in terms of being coherent. I was going to do a recorded video tonight, but man, this work week has just kicked me in the butt, and a lot of things going on, and just I felt scatterbrained all evening. Actually, had my daughter for a little bit, took her back to her mother for her days there, and I always lose sleep when I have the days with my daughter, because she doesn't sleep well and whatnot, between that and juggling my teaching and whatnot, and tried to catch up a little bit, but just was really scatterbrained. Sound Engraver and I went to mass this evening, and I was telling her, I can't focus on anything. Got a little cat nap, helped a bit, but I was sitting down to record the video, and I thought, when I record a video, I try to have the thoughts and everything somewhat in a line, or in a general outline. Sometimes I'll ramble a bit more than planned, but I didn't think I could record a video and deliver my points concisely. Honestly, I didn't even know what my concise points were. I know some topics I want to talk about, so I thought, live stream would be best. Let's just do a live stream. If parts of it work, then I can cut those out and edit them together as a video. So that's what we're doing. So welcome, folks. Welcome, Slav. I see Slav, channel member too. Heard White Lotus season 2 was good. I don't even know what White Lotus is. It sounds familiar. But I'm not exactly sure what that is. But welcome to you. Thanks for being a channel member there. Got quite a few people in here. Glad you guys are with us. Was it Cloudface? Looks like Cloudface was first. No, I've never heard of the Rupert Bear cartoons, Cloudface. Welcome, Brian Gilmartin, Dwayne Asher, Gentle Savage. Yeah, we'll talk about the Wednesday series a little bit there. Stress Levels, Jason South, Arcade Burns. Hello, everyone. Leia Plus Size, Spidey Rules, Andre. Good to see everybody from back in the day when I used to stream a lot more. I'll try to do some more regular streams. It'd be nice. Still planning on doing those game streams too. This semester is a bit heavier than I'm used to, and I'll make some time though. It's gonna be fun. So, what am I talking about with this topic or this thumbnail? I've got all of the different major motion picture companies or whatever, and the question is it even possible for us to receive good story from them anymore? Well, it depends on what you mean by that, right? I mean, certainly, yes. Should all things fall in line, possibility is there, right? Apparently there have been some good movies here or there. I don't know how good. I mean, I don't really watch new stuff much anymore. Not saying I never will, or I haven't made like some kind of vow never to watch anything or anything like that, but I don't get to, I don't have time. I'd rather watch stuff that's tried and true, or that I know is more likely to be tried and true. We'll get to that in a moment. But things like, people were saying that Top Gun Maverick was great. And I have no reason to doubt them. That's great. It's just not really wasn't really a style of movie that I would make time to go see. But people do this. People are like, oh, you need to see it, Prof. You really like it. You need to see it. Like, okay, calm down. I don't need to see anything. I appreciate that it was apparently a very good film and that you are very excited and you're still basking in the afterglow of it. Is Top Gun Maverick the key to inner peace? Is it the answer to the world's problem? No. Okay. So I don't need to go see it. If it was more aligned in my interests, then I would try to make time to go see it. But I don't need to go see it. I have limited time to watch things, So I'm not going to put something that is not really my cup of tea necessarily genre-wise, as a priority on my list. But apparently that was great. People said it, and no reason to doubt them. Okay, so something like that. I'm trying to think of something more recent. It's not really recent. It was some years ago, but I didn't expect Disney to be able to put out something like Encanto. I don't see that as being horrible or anything. It's certainly not quite the level of the Disney Renaissance, but it was a decent film for what it was, in the midst of their Raya the Dragon or whatever, and Strange World or whatever their nonsense is, no. It was highly surprising that they could put out something like that. So again, I've got all these thoughts here, and I want to come at them right. People are asking me in the chat, you guys have asked about things like the Wednesday series, and I haven't talked about the Wednesday series. That I might give this a shot. People have talked about Puss in Boots and stuff like that. Here's the thing. Let me try and explain my mindset here. It's certainly possible that that new series or new movies can be provided that are good. And it seems to be the case that now and then something still slips through, like, Maverick, Top Gun, or people keep saying, I see somebody mentioning Karate Kid in the chat films there, or chat there. What is it? The Cobra Kai series. Again, I don't watch it, but apparently that's really good. People are saying, so of course it's possible. Is it probable though? What kind of gamble are you taking on watching a new film? I'm not saying you shouldn't, if you think it's worthwhile, but what kind of gamble, how probable is it that the companies are actually going to be able to produce something good for you? And I think we need to improve our standards for good. I hear people defend a lot of movies sometimes. They say, no, there was no woke stuff in it. Okay, well, that's on the way there, but that doesn't make it a good film, a quality film. Or people, say things like, what? It's better than the other such and such or whatever. It's a progress. It's a progression. Is that really what you want to reward? We don't see any kind of steady progression away from the problems in mainstream media. A friend of mine likes to tell me this. A friend of mine who likes to watch these new things. I was talking about Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. Is that the most recent thing they did or whatever? That apparently a lot of people who even had problems with Picard and all the nonsense that they were doing, suddenly kind of liked Strange New Worlds. They said, no, this is, they're fixing things up, guys, and that one's really good or whatever. I have no interest in watching that garbage. I don't care how they fixed it. They didn't fix anything. They're still in the same continuity. They're not apologizing or stopping any other things that they're doing. They just tried to, again, throw you a bone to shut you up, so they can still do what they want. But this friend of mine says, have you watched Strange New Worlds? I'm like, no, I'm not. I refuse to watch that. And this is his reply. That is so sad. I just think that's so sad. That's so sad that you'll just deny yourself this great show because you just think that you can't watch stuff like that. Now, aside from how insultingly condescending that is, let's take a look at the assumptions that are behind that phrase. And the reason I chose that phrase to talk about is because this seems to be the mentality behind some people online when they ask me, yeah, but did you watch this? But did you watch this? But this one's really good. This one's really good. here's the assumption that's behind that. The assumption is that, wow, sad little prof. I sit around and I don't have anything to watch. I just, my darn principles. I wish I could experience some good story, but I just can't. I can't bring myself to watch the new stuff. And I watch the paint peel on the wall. I mean, that's the assumption. Like, what is that really what you think I do? No, first of all, I have precious little time to actually spend in front of a screen to actually enjoy a story. All right, I have precious little time for that. So when I do have time for that, I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to prioritize something that either I know is good that I want to rewatch, or one of the tons of classics out there that I've yet to really actually sit through, or something I might have seen really a while time ago when I was a little younger, and I want to kind of re-experience it with fresh eyes and what I know now in terms of analysis. I want to watch something that the chances are more. I have a better probable chance that this is going to be a really good thing that I enjoy. That's what I'm going to go for, and I am lifetimes away from running out of things like that on my list. So what the assumption is in this kind of like, oh, that's just so sad, you won't give things a chance and experience new things. Again, it's this assumed privilege that the new stuff is best. Yeah, it's fine to watch some old classics and whatnot, but if you can find a new story that's good, that's amazing. Why is that amazing? I've talked about this on my channel before. Why do you need it to be new? Well, because again, as I've said before, people don't really want a new good story. They want a current hashtag that all of their favorite YouTubers can be talking about, that they can feel like they're in a community talking about. It's current, it's hip, it's on the, that's what they want. They want that sort of community viewing experience. And there's nothing intrinsically wrong with that. But I think when you let your need for that or desire for that override your discernment and taste and willingness to stand up for good stories, I think that becomes a problem. I've never been like that. I've never been, Big Al talks about a lot how he loves, he loved just being in a movie theater and feeling the whole crowd experience the movie with you and hearing people's reactions and feeling like you're kind of one with the crowd. Nothing wrong with that. People do that. I hate that. I utterly loathe that. When I go into a movie theater, heaven help you if you make a noise to let me know you're there. I want to be sucked into the movie. It's me and the story. Shut the world out, And I think that's really what the theater is designed to do. I've never been a fan of this sort of group crowd mentality, when it comes to a story, experiencing a story. But that's just me. So I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, the idea with the new stories. First of all, thanks to my dear sound engraver for the super chat. Says, let me go back to my comments. I don't even have StreamYard yet set up here to reward stuff like that. There we go. Sorry, I'm late. Stream looks and sounds great. Good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so why do you need to watch something new? Now, in a case like, let's say something Star Trek, right? I'm not a Star Trek. I'm not a Trekkie across the board. I love the original series. I've been told I would like Deep Space Nine, so I might give that a try one day, but I wasn't all that pleased with Next Generation. So I have no desire to go watch, Picard or anything like that. I'm not a Trekkie that needs to just suck the marrow of all things Trekkie, But if you are that, and if you have seen, all of the Trek stuff, I can see how you would desire and be desirous of new, stories from that genre. But even then, have some discernment, have some, trying to be politic with my language, but basically grow a pair. Stop needing to lick the dregs out of the bottom of the barrel just because something that they provide might be kind of good. It's just like, there's so much out there for you to experience. I bet you haven't read all the Star Trek novels. I'm thinking about, like, for me, for Star Wars, I'm loving going through the EU. I still do that. And that's great stuff for me. There's some anime that I've been getting into that I haven't gotten into. There are classics. I started watching last night. This is a rewatch for me. Red River, the old Howard Hawks Western, John Wayne and Montgomery Clift. I hadn't seen that since I was in high school in a film class. So rewatching that again with fresh eyes and just, wow, this is so great. Having so much fun with this. There's so many classic shows, classic movies that I never got around to. Why is anything sad? Why do people say, no, but you need to watch this? It's so good. You need to watch this. Why do I need to watch this? As I said again, is the answer to inner peace in this movie? Is it the be all and end all of world problem? No, you're just experiencing this afterglow because apparently you liked it, and that's great. But stop pretending that the world needs to share your individual experience. If someone's not interested, they're not interested. Let me see. Arcade Burns here. Well, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. Says, last Christmas I gave a niece and nephew specially hacked 3DS systems. I told them the games might not be new, but new to them. They love it. Awesome. Yeah. Never really got into the 3D, the Nintendo DS, 3DS, and all of that stuff. I'm a little behind on Nintendos. I game on PlayStations and Xboxes. And I do have, I think the Nintendo I have over there is a Nintendo 64. So some classic games on that. I bought it for shoot, what is it? Shadows of the Empire. That's what I bought it for anyway. But yeah, so again, I told you I was going to be scatterbrained tonight. But the idea is, so people ask me about, yeah, but what about Wednesday or whatever? Okay. I had thought I might watch Wednesday. I thought I might watch it. And I was going to watch it someday. It was like on my list or whatever. But my nieces were over and they were watching it. And they'd apparently seen it. They loved it or whatever. And I was walking in and out of the room for a number of episodes of it. And I didn't see anything bad, but it was like 90% Harry Potter, maybe 10%, if that, Addams Family. And I'm like, okay, that still might be good. But nah, if I'm going to watch Addams Family, I want it to feel like Addams Family. I don't want an expanded universe of Addams Family with Wednesday. What about the school? What about their histories or whatever? That's not what I watch an Addams Family movie or television show for. I watch it for the kooky neighbors, that kind of aspect of it. I personally don't want it to be expanded. I don't find that interesting. I'm not saying it's not or other people can't. I didn't see anything particularly bad in it. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But I do see some, I've seen some people make some critiques about the story and this and that, some incongruities with, like, what is her special power? If she's there, how would they know her psychic ability to let her into that school or whatever? Anyway, whatever. But I saw enough to know, yeah, it's not for me. And I'm completely 100% comfortable just not watching that. I don't care how many people are talking about it. I don't care how it's the current in thing. I mean, can you be that comfortable not watching something if you're truly not interested in it, but it's the current thing? People, again, what rules your desire to watch and consume story? Is it you just don't want to be missing out? You want to fit in with everybody in the current topics, or do you actually follow your taste and your need for good quality story? People ask me about the Puss in Boots, and again, I haven't watched that. Apparently, it's really good. Hey, that's wonderful, awesome. The Shrek universe never really appealed to me, and again, it's just a matter of personal taste. But the Shrek movies came out, and I love Mike Myers. I love that kind of humor and stuff like that. But they came out at a time, they were kind of deconstructing Disney, sort of poking fun out of it in a good way, in a decent satirical way, poking fun at it and whatnot. But they did that at a time when I didn't really think Disney was worthy of poking fun at. I loved Disney back then. I mean, it was still a good, for the most part, is still a good guardian of American folklore. I've never been an anti-Disney guy until they started totally devolving into nothing but woke garbage and trying to force ideologies through their storytelling instead of good storytelling. Now Disney's a horrible company. The name Disney evokes a sneer on my face now. Because if I watch something that Disney has currently produced, then I know the chances are it's going to be garbage. That's the reputation they've earned for themselves. And it's great to see that people are starting to kind of realize, even people who just desperately had to hold out and desperately had to be a part of the crew, even the people who, but the Mandalorian's going to save Star Wars. I'm really glad to see the shine starting to finally rub off of that sucker for them, because the Mandalorian's ridiculous. It's always been ridiculous. There were good elements of storytelling in it, but I've never understood people's ability to selectively remember or selectively hear things. I mean, we've had videos of Filoni for years upon years now talking about how I've even talked about it on my channel way back in the day, talking about, well, yeah, I mean, Vader was probably kind of scared of Princess Leia because, she really stood up to him. And I mean, just absurd, obnoxious stuff, saying things about the EU, which he utterly gets wrong because he doesn't know the EU, doesn't really respect it, even though he pretends to draw from it or whatever. We've known that about Filoni for ages. And yet, Baby Yoda hits the screen and everybody's like, Filoni's going to save us, and now recently, apparently, he said some more stupid things or whatever. And some people are like, season 3 is not exactly what I wanted it to be. And, why did it take you this long? I'll try to stave off the rant thing like that. But I just don't understand people. You don't really want good story. You want a current topic that you can all feel like you're one about online. And the same thing goes for constantly griping about the bad stories. I give a lot of flack to what I call the fandom menace of this, because it really is, that's what it is. Now, I don't know if fandom menace is the best term. It's the best term I can think of and use. I don't want to make it seem like I'm against any individual. Like, to my mind, Ethan Van Sciver is probably, at least I think, he's the one that coined the fandom menace term. You will never hear me utter a critical word about Ethan Van Sciver. He's a hero of mine. I disagree with him a lot, and about a lot of things. But you never hear me rip on him. I know that Nerdrotic, Gary, does a lot of the things on his channel that I say people shouldn't be doing, but you'll never hear me say a critical word about him. He's always been nice to me. Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, always been wonderful to me. You'll never hear me say a critical word about any of these individuals, even if I very much agree with how either these individuals or other people run their channels, or not run their channels, but support certain ideas and keep things in the media spotlight that I think should be we should be turning our back on, or whatever, So I just wanted to clarify that, because when I say the word fandom menace, it is a loaded term, and I know there's a group of people who kind of find their identity in being anti-fandom menace or whatever, and I want to make it clear I'm not one of those people, but I am very much against the idea and what this kind of mindset does. That when you get this sort of group mentality, yeah, we're the group that's against that, but we're for this and we're for that little story they gave us, and we're going to talk about that one, but we're going to really talk about how bad that other thing is over there. All you're doing is making these companies relevant. You're just making them relevant in the public consciousness. It's abundantly evident that they don't care if you don't like their show. Amazon couldn't care less that you don't like Lords of the Rings or Rings of Power. Amazon needs you to keep talking about Rings of Power. Desperately needs you to keep talking about Rings of Power, because that makes them relevant. That makes people curious about it, to go check it out, even if they're watching it to hate watch it or whatever. And what did you see channel after channel after channel do? Episode by episode breakdown of the horrors of Rings of Power. If you know it's going to be that bad, why are you giving it that much attention? And you're not actually fighting it. You're not actually fighting the good fight to get them to take that show down. The best thing to do would be to ignore them. Not ignore them in terms of, like, not even say how bad they are. Sure, make a statement, fine, but stop giving them so much of your time and attention and bandwidth in the public mindset, public consciousness, if you do have a platform like this, So yeah, anyway. So anyway, there was another point I was going to make, but I got a little distracted by the chat here. Let me see. Yeah, Arcade Burns, I'm surprised at people's selective memories. I'm not. My quote says, I'm not. It explains why abused still come back. Yeah. I mean, there is that sort of battered wife syndrome, right? Very much that sort of, I call it the battered wife syndrome. Well, Disney really, really made me mad with Star Wars. They really, I'm so mad about The Last Jedi. Mandalorian was actually kind of okay. Mandalorian was sweet to me and apologized and bought me dinner. So maybe I'll come back. Oh no, Book of Boba Fett beat me up again. Oh wait, there's another season of Mandalorian. Well, you got to give them a chance. It's not all bad. It's like this battered spouse syndrome. It's they know what they're doing. As I've said this many times before, they know what they're doing with their throwing you the bones. They know how to do it. And what are they doing right now? The current technique is for them, and you've done this. You've done this with your support of some of these things like Spider-Man No Way Home. Um, well, yeah, I know, but I gotta see it. I got Tobey Maguire's. I gotta see my boy Tobey Maguire. I gotta support that. So they learned that they can do whatever they want, throw you a little nostalgia bit every now and then, and you'll shut up and you'll support it. Whatever you like it or don't like it, you'll come and support it. What are they doing now? Okay, Ezra Miller. Whew, boy, he's a dumpster fire in the media. Are people really going to support? Put Michael Keaton in the movie. And I'm already hearing people comment on my videos say, I know it's going to be, whatever, but I mean, Michael Keaton, that's why I'm going. I'm going to see Michael Keaton. And, look, we just have to accept that Ezra Miller's not going away, whatever, but I'm going to go see it for screw what you go see it for. They don't care. You're buying a ticket. You're making it relevant. You're supporting it. You're saying, yes, more of that, please. I'll have all of the ideological garbage you can throw at me. I'll have whatever plate of excrement you would like to serve me, so long as you put a little dollop of nostalgia on top. Tee hee hee. That's all you're talking. That's all you're telling them. No one's making a statement. If you want to stand up for good stories, and people might make this argument, they might say, well, if they actually put out a good story, don't we need to tell them that that's what we want more of, so that they'll put out more of that, and then we ignored the bad stuff, so they put out more of that? In theory, but they're more cunning than that. They're far more cunning than you are when it comes to that, because as I've said, they've learned that they don't need to actually change as long as they can make you think that they're making a change. So what is the logical thing to do as a viewer then? To sit back and wait longer for them to actually prove themselves in this change. Don't just go gobble up the first little tasty treat they throw your way. Wait and see. Is this a really substantial change that they've made? Are they really? Oh, that might make you gotta miss out on the new thing. Get over it. Grow a spine. Wait. Make them prove themselves, because they don't want to prove themselves. They just want to make you think. They want to throw you those tasty little bones and make you think. It's so. Is it possible? Yes. Anything's possible. Is it probable? No. And the biggest reason why it's not probable is because you will continue to lap up any little trace of a treat that they throw you out in the midst of all the garbage they're handing you. You can't stop. You can't stop yourself. You're compulsive. It's disgusting. And I know I'm not talking to each individual you in the movie. I know, or in the chat there. I know that I'm just kind of speaking the proverbial you. But that's why, audiences. If you really want better stories, if you really want Hollywood or the mainstream media to change, grow up, man up, and stop having to gobble up everything that you think is decent or whatever. Say no, even if it looks like, oh, but they got the right person and they got no. Say no. Make them prove themselves, because it's been shown. It's not even my opinion. Okay, it's a fact that they throw out little things to get you sucked back in, and then they go do more stuff what they want. That's just a fact. That's how they do things. The Book of Boba Fett wasn't some, oh, that was just a fluke. Oh, this person got involved and that person got involved. No, the Book of Boba Fett, they knew it was time to be able to do what they wanted to do again. They'd already got you in. They got you in, and then especially if they threw Mando and gross butt baby Yoda in there at some point, they knew you'd just suck it up and go watch the series anyway. Complain about it, whatever. They don't give a crap what you complain about. Just go see it. That's all they want, and you do it. You do it. One more comment I'll make here, and then I'll take some questions if you want, or people, asking about this or that. This is kind of a related comment. With the bad writing, it's not even always about woke ideologies that are being pushed. A lot of times, too, it's about when you reward writers, when you reward the filmmakers and the storytellers, no matter what, and that's what you do when you go see it. Complain about it all you want. Go see it for this reason and not that reason. Whatever. You're supporting them. You're giving them the go-ahead. When you continue to do that, you're not rewarding good writing, even apart from the ideology aspect of it. What I've noticed in a lot of this has always been a problem with writers and writers of series or writers of movies. And if you're a writer, then you need to consider this. You are not writing for yourself. That's one narrative that people will give you. Oh, just write to make yourself happy. It's your work. You need to write to express yourself and write, just make yourself. That's fine if you're writing a journal. And if that's whatever you're meant to write is ever going to be, it's just your own personal journal, fine. Write to please yourself. But if you actually want anybody to give a crap about your stories and to read them, then you need to write to please an audience. Now, of course, you have to balance that. You don't just write nothing but audience-pleasing fluff and nothing of substance that of course not. But you do have to write with audiences in mind. And what I see a lot in a lot of these movies and stories and TV shows and people talking about them is really bad choices that the writers will make. And I know this from being a writer myself because they think, oh, that's so interesting. Oh, yeah. An idea can be very interesting to a writer. Because a writer, like any sort of artist, from you think about like musicians, bands who have this one hit from like 30 years ago, and it's their biggest hit, and they're still expected to play it at every concert. Well, the band themselves, they can get sick to death of that stupid song, having to play that again every night. But the audiences who go see it, this is why they love that band or how they first got turned on to them or whatever. So they're gonna expect that song, and they're gonna expect a good, sincere effort at delivering that song. So if you want to be a musician where people continue to go see you live, I remember before she passed away, I went to go see Etta James, the great Etta James, this blues and soul singer or whatever. And her big song was At Last, At Last My Love Has Come Along and whatnot. You could tell she was so incredibly bored with that song. She just kind of mumbled through it. She just kind of did like a scat version or something. It was so awful that me and a lot of people simply just got up and left the concert after that. And it wasn't that, oh, you can't do anything but that song, of course, but it was the fact that if you don't care enough about us to deliver what you clearly know we want, why should we care enough about you to stick around for you to, express yourself in other ways? So that's an example when it comes to like musicians, but writers are the same way. The biggest example I give you is the writers and directors who did Endgame, Avengers Endgame. All right, now this is the same writing team and same director team that did Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War. I mean, this is a tried and true writing team and directors team, and it got to the point where they could pretty much do whatever they wanted, right? Because they had done so many popular films, at least in the Marvel Cinematic U at that point, and it was time when it was a time before the real big fall of Marvel movies. So they're writing Endgame, and I can almost just see them in the room. I can almost just see one of the writers go, "What if everybody's disappeared for like 5 years? Oh yeah, oh." That's interesting, because then when we go back and visit the characters, we can kind of explore how they're dealing with like the 5-year break. And oh, that's so interesting. Now, why is that interesting to a writer? Because if you've been writing in this one universe and trying to link everything together and keep everything going, a 5-year break gives you a break. Means you can, oh man, I got all this kind of continuity and stuff off my back. I don't have to think about all this now. It's a fresh new world that I can explore with these stories and whatnot. And it might be interesting to you as a writer, but that utterly killed the MCU. I mean, there were other things that killed the MCU, but you think about people going to see these movies now that all have to deal with this 5-year break. I mean, it killed Ant-Man, right? I'm not concerned with anything that happens, from Marvel these days, but I've heard that the movie's not all that great and doing that well. And one of the things that a 5-year gap kills is the wonderful father-daughter relationship he had with Cassie. Now it's, he's been absent, and now he's got to deal with a teenager, and I don't know why I'm doing that. And it kills everything we love about the characters. And it's because the writers just thought that'd be so interesting, a fresh, new idea. There are lots of examples. Like this is a dated example, but I remember when they were doing the last season of The Office, Steve Carell had left, and I heard an interview with the writers and producers and everything before the season aired, and they were like, we're actually going to really explore the Jim and Pam relationship. That relationship has been kind of off limits for us. We've not really been allowed to, put pressure on them, because they're such a draw for the show. But now we just thought, let's put a little pressure on that marriage and see what happened. And what will just about everybody tell you, the last season of The Office sucked. And it didn't suck because the actors weren't good, or you didn't have the same, it wasn't just that Carell left and all of a sudden everything doesn't work. But they decided that they probably knew it was the last season, and they were just gonna do things that were interesting to them as a writer, but that were utterly disgusting or boring, or any mix to people who love the characters and love the show because of these things. Um, know what works, and stick with what works, when it comes to like archetypes and whatnot. Doesn't mean you can't change things up to certain degrees, or to certain in certain contexts, and whatnot. But I'm seeing a lot of today, people just rewarding writers who are clearly just bored. They clearly hate their own material. I've talked about this. Fan Man talks about this a lot too. But like every writer that gets a hold of Superman, okay, all right, so it's my job to write Superman now. Okay, how am I going to make him interesting? How am I gonna really, blast this character open where people can actually experience? And the assumption is that, oh, no one's really like this character. Oh, people just, he's cheesy, he's too two-dimensional. We got, every single writer nowadays approaches Superman like that. In the comics, in the movies, in the television show, the garbage Superman and Lois show does the same thing, or Clark and Lois, whichever one it was. With Hecklin or whatever, and people are like, did that one get that right? No, it doesn't. You're just so desperate to watch something new that it threw you a couple of bones. You're like, that one's not that bad. Yes, it is. Because they keep approaching these characters like, okay, now we got to shake things up. That was the problem with Dan DiDio, right? Don't stick with anything that works. Shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, or people aren't going to be interested anymore. Well, you just lost interest is what you did. Elfrunner, I just see this in chat. I see folks repeating the lines with Mandalorian 3. If Disney's going to turn it around, blah, blah, blah. I guess they like running in circles. Well, that was the garbage arguments they were using for Book of Boba Fett, right? When it first started airing, and everybody's like, this is so boring. How did that happen? They didn't even explain that. How did that? Guys, you need to watch the whole thing. No. If it was a novel or a movie, maybe there's something to be said with, hey, kind of increase your attention span and give it time to develop or something. But this was a series, an episodic series. And that means that the episodes need to do their job. They need to be little mini arcs that hook the reader or viewer or audience or whatever, give them a cliffhanger to make them want to come back. That's important. Spidey Rule says, replacing Tomasi and Gleason with Bendis was one of the biggest mistakes. Oh yeah, absolutely. That is one of Dan DiDio's most epic fails ever. Superman was amazing. Dan Jurgens on Action Comics, Tomasi on Superman. That was amazing. And let's just fire them and everything they were doing, because it's working right now. But it probably will stop working magically. It'll stop working somehow if I don't shake things up, So yeah, don't even get me started on that man again. But yeah, I agree with you too. Tom King is Spidey Rules is very guilty of writing stories for himself. That's why all the characters he writes about sound the same. He's basically just using writing as a therapy session for himself. And a lot of writers do this, whether they're approaching it like therapy for themselves or just, I want to write what's interesting to me. Well, if you're no longer interested in the characters of the world that you're writing, then say, excuse me, you'll have to find a new writer for that movie or that series. I need to go find something I'm interested in. Do that. Oh, I can't do that. I'm just gonna change it to something I'm interested in. Then, well, you've done the unforgivable. You've killed it. You've killed it. Such a stupid idea. And I think the more years we get away from it, the more people are going to realize, yeah, that whole 5-year gap thing was really dumb. I mean, things were working. Yes, you can see the ideology is already starting to permeate, and Kevin Feige himself was even trying to push these nonsense with Brie Larson and whatever. But it worked. Like this movie, don't like this movie. In general, the MCU was working as a shared universe of storytelling. And that 5-year block just crapped on it all, just undid everything, because it destroyed the continuity. And again, writers would, yes, no, we can find, Dave Filoni talks about that. I don't like having to be saddled with, continuity when I write. I like to be able to just, write what I want to write. Well, then screw you. You're not writing for an audience. Why should we support you? We like continuity when it comes to something like Star Wars and whatnot, oh, but he's the golden chosen one. He's the good guy, and Kathleen Kennedy's the bad guy. And this is my narrative that I'm 2 years old, so I still believe in, whatever. There was a comment here I was gonna get to? Somebody asked about. Oh, Leia Plus Size said, any thoughts on the WB announcement of wanting to make Lord of the Rings into Star Wars? They want to make more shows. I guess my only comment is, why are you people rewarding this nonsense? Why are you people rewarding this nonsense? You know it's not going to be good, but it might. I gotta go see it. You know, this is what they did. You know, with the Amazon was trying to remember they wanted to make Lord of the Rings like their Game of Thrones. You know, Lord of the Rings is not Game of Thrones. Don't tell me you want to make Lord of the Rings a Star Wars. Don't tell me you make. How about you just make Lord of the Rings? Don't write new stories. Tolkien already, and between Tolkien and Christopher, you have all the stories there that you could tell. You could tell a developed Silmarillion. I mean, you couldn't do it today because the writers and filmmakers just wouldn't treat it properly with respect. But you stop. Stop. And it's the filmmakers themselves are the executives are so terrified. Oh, it's so scary to write an original thing. Oh no, that's scary. Oh, that's scary. We can't do that. Let's call it. Let's make it folded into Scooby Doo, and then you can have, which becomes a deconstruction of everything Scooby Doo and the garbage, Velma thing, which is another series that everybody all just couldn't wait to go online and talk and make relevant and keep pushing. Now that one hopefully will just die, but who knows? I don't know. Final Fantasy fan says writers shaking things up because they think it's interesting is the equivalent of shaking a can of soda before opening it, which then will explode and make a big mess. There's something to be said for well, I mean, of course I'm going to say this because I am an editor. I do professional editing for stories and books and whatnot, whether it's I can do copy editing and stuff like that, sure, but developmental editing is the helping somebody develop their story. And that's what everybody needs. And a lot of new writers, especially, just, no, I don't know. I know what story I want to tell. Okay, well, how many years of experience and education in the craft of storytelling you got there, Chief? Oh, okay. Yeah, how about you let me read your story and help you with that? And it doesn't mean that you're letting somebody else be the author of your story. You still have final say. But even the best authors out there, if they want to consistently write good stuff, then they have developmental story editors, because people who can see their story in a fresh perspective and whatnot. And whether it's in film or books or whatever, you see a lot of instances in which authors or filmmakers got so popular that restrictions or editorial oversight was no longer able to be placed on them. That's a horrible sentence, but you know what I mean. I use J.K. Rowling as an example. I like the Harry Potter books. Still like the books. Couldn't even get past all the movies. I thought the movies just went down the tank. Honestly, it was right in the third movie when they fired Chris Columbus left and they got new directors in. Suddenly Hogwarts is just this dumpy old castle on a hill. Michael Gambon started playing Dumbledore as just this doddering old fool who happens to be right. It was all the magic was lost. But the books kept up the magic for a lot. I think it was Goblet of Fire, though, which was a longer book. And you can tell that by Goblet of Fire, and I think it was even in the news at that time, that she had proved that her work would be popular. So the publishing company couldn't provide so much editorial restrictions on her anymore. She was just able to kind of do what she wanted. And I remember reading through Goblet of Fire thinking, I like the story, but there's so much in here that just needs to be cut. There's so much in here that needs to be reshaped a little bit, but you couldn't touch her anymore because she was then J.K. Rowling, and that's what happened with the writers and producers or directors of Avengers Endgame. They had done so many successful movies, and I don't know the behind the scenes thing. I don't know how much editorial oversight they had, but I mean, somebody should have seen that on the table when they're just planning the movie and think 5-year gap. No, we're not doing a 5-year gap, guys. Come on, way to kill everything we've built here. But no one did, Andre, thank you so much. Andre Hernandez, $20 super chat. Dang, thank you for that. So I remember an interview with Dave Stevens from Rocketeer. He said he was given advice: write a comic that you would read. How true and effective is that? Is it possible to write a comic that you enjoy and other people can enjoy? That is true. That's a good. Okay, so I like the way that he worded that. Write a comic that you would read. Don't write a comic that you would have fun writing. Write a comic that you would have fun reading. That's the key. Now, yes, you need to be interested in what you're writing. I'm not being extremes on either end here, but yeah, the key to that is write the story, write the movie, write the book or whatever that you would enjoy reading. And it's not necessarily going to be the one you're going to enjoy writing, at least not every part of it and whatnot. Um, it's true. Are you writing for an audience or are you writing for yourself? If you're just writing for yourself, put that crap in your journal and stop, torturing the world with it. But if you want to write for an audience, then you take into account what they want. Why do they love your story? Why do they love your characters? If you've gained a little bit of a following or whatnot. I'm sorry that you're bored with them. Step away from it for a while if you're bored with them. That's what happened with Sherlock Holmes and oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the writer of Sherlock Holmes. I have it over here. I know his name. I'm blanking. Told you my brain's rattled here. I don't know. You guys know what I'm talking about. The guy who wrote Sherlock Holmes. Arthur Conan Doyle. Thank you there. Thank you. Yeah, he got absolutely sick of writing Sherlock Holmes because he wanted to be known as a novelist and as a writer of other things and some historical fiction and whatnot. So he killed off Holmes in the story, the final struggle, I think it is, or something like that, when Moriarty's introduced and killed off Holmes. And this is, Victorian London, and people pitched a fit because he was tired of writing those stories. I don't want to do these anymore. I want to be known for these other things. So he killed off the character, and people were actually walking around the street with like pallbearers bands on their arm, like they were in mourning, for Sherlock Holmes. And people would petition him and try to get him to write more stories. And he refused, which, okay, he was actually tired of writing them. He wouldn't have had any joy. He wouldn't have been writing good stories. Fine. Until his money got low and he realized no one wants to buy my other stuff. And then he started writing Sherlock again. He brought him back from the dead. First he wrote Hound of the Baskervilles and was like a story from before he had died, but then he eventually brought him back to life or whatever, explained how he didn't really die and blah, blah, blah. And he had more stories again. So yeah, you have to consider your audience. You have to. You're not writing for yourself as a writer. Write for yourself as a reader. Sure, that's great. So anyway, I feel like there was another point I was going to make. I'm kind of running out of steam a little bit though. Let's see here. I mean, there's so many tragedies. It's gotten to the point now where when it comes to modern stuff or stuff that was made in the last 10 years or something like that, you can't really just point to a series or for the most part, you can't really point to a series or a franchise of films or whatever and just say that was really good. You can't, because you have to say that was really good up until this point. All right. So if you watch it and you skip that one though, because that one was, that one they were starting to try to do this over here. So skip that one, go over here and, avoid this season of it because that's when they were doing this. It's that. How horrible is that? It doesn't have to be like that. It is possible to write consistent, good material. It'll ebb and flow to some degree, but it's consistent. So anyway, DFLS. No, I haven't seen Puss in Boots. Just not interested in the Puss in Boots. People are saying it's great, and that's wonderful. I'm glad it exists and that it's out there. But yeah, just never really been interested in that. Cartoon wise, I've been Sound Engraver and I. Once a week, we watch stuff together because I'm telling you a little bit, my dear Sound Engraver. She's very slow at watching things. She feels movies intently. She feels television films intently, and she can't watch. She can't just sit there and binge a bunch of stuff. Like it'll just stick in her brain, So the things we watch together, we have to go through pretty slowly. We're going through. She's never watched Batman the Animated Series, and I haven't seen those episodes in ages. So much fun going back through those. We've had like 5 episodes left of the original Thundercats to watch forever, but I think we're getting there to finish that off. So I've been doing those cartoon wise. In my spare time, when it comes to cartoons, I'm rewatching the old Ninja Turtles, the original classic, from the 80s. Been great. Like I said, I started rewatching some classics that I had watched a long time ago, like Red River. I started watching the other day because I'm really into westerns lately. Good westerns, you know. I watched the Man with No Name trilogy because I'd of course seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but I'd never actually seen Fistful of Dollars, believe it or not. Just one of those classics that slipped by me, you know. I just never got a chance to watch and thoroughly enjoyed it. Enjoyed that better than For a Few More Dollars. But good stuff. There's so much great stuff out there. I when I grade, if I'm not having to like read a paper intently and really respond to the comments, like if I'm just looking for like missing commas or looking to make sure that you ticked off all of the boxes in the prompt or whatever, I'll have a show on in the background and been watching some old sitcoms or whatever that have been great. Good writing too, solid good writing. I think culture died aside from this or that exception that might have happened, you know, this or that might have been released after this or whatever. I think, you know, certainly some Marvel movies came after this point, but I think the 2000 teens was the death of good story in general, good art in general. Let me even say that. Now, and I'll explain the caveats. There are exceptions. I'll explain that in a second. But I do see a super chat there from Andre. Let me scroll down to get it. Have you thought about how movie Aragorn was changed but was still heroic? Where does movie Aragorn succeed where Man of Steel, Superman fail? That's a really interesting topic. That's a good question. Oh man, you could probably do a whole video on that. Yeah, because I can see somebody arguing, because I like the film portrayal of Aragorn, even though it's different in a lot of ways. They added some things to him. They made him sort of more of a reluctant hero. And you might say, well, why did you like that, but you won't like Man of Steel when they made Superman more of a reluctant hero? Well, first of all, the reluctant hero and the changes that they made to Aragorn in the film are two drops in a bucket compared to the bathtub loads of crap that they added to Superman and devolved him and deconstructed him with Man of Steel. So it's, you know, even though it's might be on the same spectrum, it's so far apart on that spectrum that you can't really compare those. I think that the changes they made to Aragorn didn't impede his aspirational archetypal nature. He was reluctant not because he knew there was a right thing to do and he didn't think he should do that right thing because, you know, does Middle Earth even deserve to be saved? Who knows? Who can say? Now, he was reluctant because he didn't know if he was the right person. You know, it was kind of asking if he really had it in him and so forth. And it didn't, you know, he doesn't mope around. Every time somebody's in need in a heartbeat, Aragorn jumps to it. It's always worth it. He's always, you know, happy to do that. He's out there fighting the good fight. It wasn't like they didn't rewrite his character from the bottom. They just added some different things to give him an arc. Because as much as I love him in the books, Aragorn doesn't really have an arc in terms of internal growth. And he doesn't have to. He's not one of the main characters, but he is who he is. He's the same character in the beginning when you first meet him in the books that he is in the end. Now, things have happened to him. He's king now and so forth and like that. But his internal arc, he hasn't gone through anything that he's a different, progression in character now or anything. Where that's so they added stuff to make that happen in the movie, which I think was good. But anyway, thank you for the super chat. It's an interesting question. What was I? I had a topic that I was going to end on here right before that super chat came in. I can't remember what it was. It was a pretty interesting thing I was going to talk about, or at least I thought it was interesting. What was I? I don't know. I have no idea what I was going to say. Maybe it'll come back to me. I don't know. 2 years. Yeah. Man, that ticks me off. I wish I had the thing I was going to talk about. Maybe I'll make that into another video if I can remember it. It was a topic. It was a movie. I don't know. I'm really scattered. It's been crazy. On top of work and everything, Sound Engraver and I have been doing the wedding planning and stuff, getting things ready, even though it kind of started out like, oh, we got plenty of time. And then we start looking at websites going, you really need to have this one done by this and this. So that's been busy, getting me scattered. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Yeah, talking about just the death of art, in the teens. And you can obviously pick this or that movie or this or that piece of music that came from the teens or whatever that you might think is good or whatever. I'm not saying there aren't exceptions, but in general, I think it coincided with the death of culture. If you looked at, and there are other reasons for this too, but if you looked at somebody in 1985, let's say, the way they dressed, the way they talked, the way they, their lifestyle, and then compared it to somebody from 1965, they would immediately be a fish out of water. If you brought somebody from 1985 and dropped them into 1965, immediately you would see that's a fish out of water. They wouldn't even know how to live. They would have to do a lot of adjustments and whatnot. If you brought somebody today from 2022 and dropped them in 2002, there'd be changes to be sure, but you wouldn't know that they're different. The styles didn't change all that much. There are differences in styles. Lifestyles, that were certainly much more internet based now, whereas 2002, I forget when the iPhone came out. It was a little bit after that. So we're coming into that or whatever. But culture itself, in terms of, perceivable culture, is slower to develop. Technology is developing faster, but culture around it is developing slower. Meaning music sounds the same, from this decade. Like the music of today is pretty much the same as the music from 2015 or whatever. It hasn't changed all that much, where it used to change a lot. And the reason it would change is because people were allowed to, it was allowed to change a little bit more organically. People were encouraged to produce new stuff. They were rewarded for producing new stuff. I don't know. I haven't really coalesced all my thoughts on this topic. Maybe I'll think about this a little bit more and present a talk on it. But I think about it like with rock music. I love rock. I love the, 80s hair metal and stuff like that. And still like some stuff from the 90s. I don't really like the whole grunge thing. But there's certain bands that I think from the 90s that were really great. Goo Goo Dolls, Urge Overkill, and so forth. But I even think that in the 2000s, I even think that we still had culture in the 2000s. There's still some great bands and great movies being made and great, that wasn't where the downfall came. And it has to do with ideologies, taking and holding sway. Maybe you could really call a definitive end to it in 2020 or something like that, because people used the pandemic and whatnot to really, clash and whatnot and enact their agendas and so forth. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to think that through a little bit more and get my thoughts together straight, because I am tired before I talk about that. Yeah, Vice Glorious, name 10 current bands right now. I couldn't. I can name bands, older bands, who are still putting out some decent stuff, but I couldn't tell you any new bands right now. And I'm sure there are new bands. I'm not saying there aren't, but the industry isn't designed to promote them or give them a chance at all. You've got to be produced out the wazoo and fit the, Also with internet now, is there even such a thing as an album anymore? Does any new artist actually put out a whole album? I mean, wouldn't it just be downloadable tracks now? So yeah, Kate Bush, yeah, from the Running Up That Hill song, it got popular again. Yeah. So anyway, I think I've run out of steam, and I think I'm running out of coherence. So I'll wrap this up. But I do thank you guys for popping in on a Saturday night unannounced stream. I guess to sum up, is it possible to have new good stories from these companies? Sure. Is it probable? No. So what you ask yourself as an audience member, okay, so you see this new thing and it sounds good. An example of this. Let me get to Archie Burns super chat here, and then I'll give you my example, which I think will be a good thing to end on. Archie Burns for $20. Dang, thank you so much, sir. What do you think might encourage and push new stuff in being supported by mainstream companies? How can we make sure the 2020s can offer new things to audiences and not just skin suits of existing IPs? It's a good point. I think I think part of the problem or part of the solution is what people are already doing, which is trying to support independent artists, independent, whether that's musicians or whether storytellers or whatever. That's great, but you have to turn your back on the main companies. They don't care if you go buy the independent stuff as long as you're still throwing your dollars in on their stuff. Whether you hate it or like it, you're still supporting them. I think we don't have enough people turning their back on mainstream media, even if that means turning your back on something that might be good. Uh, the example I was going to give, and I'm not really saying this across the board. I'm not saying, oh, you can't watch anything from these companies. How dare you? Please don't watch anything from these companies. I'm not calling for boycotts or anything. I can imagine there are instances are films or storytellers that really have proved themselves or proved or earned a shot. Sure. But another story in a current franchise that's still running that no one's apologized for and we're still building on the continuity of, that's not that's not anything new to give a chance to, you know. But the example is, I was listening to Fan Man's show this morning, Second Cup Cafe. If you don't know, he's brought that back. It's on Saturday mornings now, or noon-ish or whatever. Anyway, and I didn't know this because I don't follow the news. I just don't follow. I don't care what happens, in current media. But apparently they've announced a new Hellboy movie, that they're in development of it. And he read the treatment or the idea that they're going to put out, and it sounds like a cool idea. It does sound cool. I won't be going to see it. Certainly won't be going to see it. If I go see that, it'll be once it's out for a while, maybe even up to a year. And if I've consistently heard from every single person that it's good. Like if I hear Top Gun Maverick levels of reviews about the new Hellboy movie, then maybe I would go see it. But I'm certainly not going to go see it when it comes out. Why would you go support something? Like, what are the chances they'll actually get that right? What is their track record? What are the chances? So yeah, I don't think it's going to change. People are supporting independent creators, which is great. But I think that the support we give independent creators can't be unconditional and across the board, because then we cut out any sort of editorial oversight on them. Then any Joe Schmo can write a story one day and the next day start selling it. And we need to have we need to reward craft. We need to reward work being done, these story quality in independent creators. And there are a lot of independent creators doing wonderful quality work. So we've got that part, covered, the support of the independent stuff, but people are still throwing all their money at the mainstream. And that's why it's not working. That's my take on it anyway. Oh, and listen, you got here just as I'm wrapping up. Archie Burns says, consider today's big super chat a long time coming. Well, I really do appreciate that, sir. I do appreciate the super chats. They always are much appreciated. Alfredo said also music videos are weak now. I've caught some of the new Beavis and Butthead on Comedy Central, and the music videos they watch are so boring and cheap. I didn't even know they brought Beavis and Butthead back, but I can imagine. I used to teach when I would do critical analysis units in my just like college writing class. Nowadays, I give them films to watch because they're incapable of reading a whole, even short story. They can't follow that along. They can barely watch a whole movie. But I used to do music videos, which were great, but it got to the point where the music videos I would show them were getting to be like 5, 6, even 10 years old, because that's the only music videos that had any depth to them that you could really analyze, and yeah, I can only imagine that. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up here, guys. Mika, yeah, I did get the Adventures of Uncle Man and Wonder Niece. That was you that sent that? Yeah, that's cool. I appreciate that. No, I haven't got a chance to read it yet. I can't, but like I said, very limited time on recreational stuff. So, yeah, the Archetype book, we'll get it out there one day. But thank you guys for popping in, spending a little bit of your Saturday night with me. I'm going to go rest my brain. I'm going to go game. I think I'm going to go play some Red Dead Redemption, the first one. Be John Marston for a little bit. That'll clear my brain out a bit. So, one last one. Slav says, when are you going to make more EU vids? I will. I haven't even told Big Al about this, but if he's up for it, and I know he will be, I'm going to do another EU book study over the summer with Al. I think he'll be into that. Don't know really which book yet, but we'll figure that out. So yeah, EU stuff will be coming again. I do want to continue my reviews going in order and whatnot because I'm still loving the EU. And still loving the anime. I just watched some more Naruto last night, and need to catch up with my other channels. I need to finish up talking about Vash the Stampede and Trigun and whatnot as well. So thank you guys, appreciate it. Have a good night. Have a wonderful tomorrow, and I'll till next time keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love.